Expanding our knowledge through those amongst us is a privilege we take for granted. Join me as we explore the minds of our fellow beings to unlock their knowledge for ourselves. It is time for a guest entry. But first, a quick disclaimer. Most of the guests I've had on were recorded through Discord due to us being long distance. If the quality dips, it's due to my connection. But I hope each of these conversations brings you new knowledge of the creative and cultural arts. It's my privilege to have a guest who participated in the March of the Core back in the month of March. Winston Malone is an author who seeks to give other fictional writers a platform to share their work. Creator of the Storyletter Substack, listen to us discuss his inspiration in establishing this venture and much more. Enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another guest entry where I get to have on Winston Malone, who is the creator, CEO. I'm not sure what title you actually have for your company, but you run the Storyletter Substack, and you were also one of the main archivists inside my March of the Core for the month of March, my first March of the Core, my event. But thank you for coming on the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Matt.
So I wanted to have you on because I think that both of us are in kind of the same field of the same industry that we're kind of trying to build our own. Like we're trying to build these indie publishing places where people can come and publish their own content, though we have like different ways that we're doing it. You're going more of like a speculative route where like anyone can come in and write content, and you've already established a foundation, I believe, and like people are already writing for you. So I would actually like to know what got you started on this journey.
So yeah, that's a good question. So it's really evolved. It started 9 months ago when I saw Substack really advertising their platform, and I just really like the idea of monetizing independent writers' work. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, you know what? I would like to archive my stories and like have it, just have it out there, for anyone to read. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really have like a vision. And so I started just posting things, real short flash fiction type pieces. And then it just kind of like rapidly evolved from there where, I was on these like alt tech platforms and I saw other people posting their work, and it was just, there was a lot of people doing the same thing. And I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of maybe have a point where we can aggregate, share our work, network, things like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like when I joined alt tech, everyone is going there to try to promote their work, and because we're a part of the creatives community technically. So like they're all trying to promote their own work, and in a way they're all independent in themselves, trying to do their own stuff. But I feel like the way that others are able to really grow is by developing a network with each other and collaborating with each other, promoting each other's work, and helping each other build and grow as well. Which is why I enjoy what you're doing, because you're helping others promote their own content, and that's like it's inspiring for aspiring writers to come on and be able to promote their content, knowing that, well, they're not the best writer, they're not critically acclaimed or anything like that, but at least they have a place inside a community somewhere where they can grow and build what they're making. And I think that's
Right.
that's great. So when you started this 9 months ago, when did you start writing specifically? Like what got you into writing? I know you have quite a background. You were in the military as well, I believe. And go ahead and tell them. Just tell us your life story, I guess.
Okay, I'll try to keep it brief.
Yeah.
I really found my love for writing in high school when I took a creative writing class, and each week there would be like a prompt, and the teacher would be like, "All right, your grade is just to write a story," and it was like, "This is the easiest class I've ever taken." It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
And it was strange because before that, I hadn't really externalized my creativity. It was mainly like through films and music.
Yeah.
Like, and I drew. I like to draw art and stuff, but I was never very good because I didn't stick with it. But the writing stuff really took hold, and I think the issue was that there's so many types of writing. Like there's comic books, there's film scripts, and there's novel. Like there's so many different ways to approach writing, and I've kind of just dabbled in all of it, mainly because I couldn't find the best outlet, like how I wanted to express the stories that I wanted to tell. And so it kind of all fell away when I joined the military, around 10 years ago. So I served in the Air Force for 6 years in Georgia. And there's a lot of different stories with that.
But, yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of stories with that.
But I guess to tie it in with the writing is, I was on Wattpad during that time, posting like serial fiction and engaging with communities on there, which was fun. But I was kind of amateur in my approach, in which I was posting unedited things. Like I would get so excited that I would finish a chapter and I would just post it. And, and so I was excited to get it out, but I wasn't excited to take the time to edit and revise, which is like a huge part of the writing process. And that's a more recent thing that I've focused on, is the revision aspect.
Have you come to start to enjoy it, or is it still a pain?
It's a pain, but like I do find it more enjoyable. I don't know if it's because I'm older or what it is, but I think I have a broader perspective maybe of what writing and publishing is than I did when I was like 18. So
I still have a hard time editing my stuff, though I do enjoy reading it. I enjoy going back and reading it. Sometimes I'll skip over the issues with it and not even notice it subconsciously.
It's hard.
And then my girlfriend will read it, and all she's focused on are the errors and not actually the story. And I'm just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's tough. So I have to read it out loud sometimes just to make sure. But yeah, that was partly why I got out of the military, was that I felt like I wasn't achieving what my passion, and so I was getting burnt out. And then I ended up taking. I got out of active duty and I went into the Guard, so I'm still in the Air National Guard. Um, and so it was a good transition for me because it was like, I'm still half in, half out. So, but I took a position out in Utah, and so that's where I'm at now, is Salt Lake City. And
nice.
Yeah, I've just been
chilling.
Yeah, just working and really focused. Like, I mean, the Substack is basically a second job at this point. But I don't feel like it's work, It's like I get off of actual work and then I just work on the Substack, and it's fun. I enjoy it.
That's great. Honestly, being able to have your main passion being a part of your work, and being able to actually get paid for it, like finding a way to monetize your own passions that's what you got to do, especially if you're a creative. Having something on the side to keep afloat, and then
for sure
working on your creative content. So when it comes to writing, how would you describe your writing style? Or is that a very complex question?
Let's see. How would I describe it? I would say it's constantly growing and evolving, because I don't think I've really found my voice yet, which is partly why I'm against, pigeonholing myself into a genre, because I may, end up writing historical fiction or like horror or something. And I just don't think I've found my niche, but yeah, I gravitate towards fantasy because for me it's easy to it's easier to formulate fake worlds rather than try to fit it in the real world for some reason.
Yeah, I am the same way, and it's weird because there's a lot of writers try to take from the real world and you use Earth as like a fantasy world, like how Harry Potter does it. And those people usually say that it's actually harder to do a fake world because you have to come up with all the extra stuff for it. You have to come up with the cultures of the people. And like when it comes to world building, when you're writing a story, you technically don't necessarily need to have those unless you just come up with like the ideas of, we have a plant. This plant is going to end up being able to be a healing factor for a mage or something like that in the world, and you choose the plant's name and figure out what the plant's origins are, and then have to go through the whole line of like how that works. but readers aren't gonna know that stuff. They don't really care about that stuff unless they're like a super fan.
Right.
And we want
and also,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, there you go.
We want readers to get to that point where they become a super fan and want to know about those things, but we don't necessarily like need to dive too far into them, into the like nitty gritty building the world aspect of world building itself.
Right. Yeah, I was just gonna add on that, like, it's also part of, like, the reader can kind of imagine a lot of their own, like, they can kind of world build themselves in their own imagination, and so I think a reader kind of fills in those gaps, like if you don't have everything detailed.
Do you do you I know you like what would you say your strength is like when it comes to writing a story itself, like writing a your novels specifically? Like
I would,
do you focus more on like the dialogue or like the descriptions, or what specifically do you think is your greatest strength as a writer?
yeah, that's a good question. I want to say it's action scenes. I've always gravitated towards action, and
Hmm.
a lot of the times I build my chapters around the moving forward of the plot. So, any action that's going to happen in that scene, I kind of build around that. And that comes more from like the visual standpoint because I ultimately I would love to write movies, and I think I visualize a lot of the scenes that are going to take place before I write them
I think
several days in advance.
yeah,
So
I think we're kind of in the same boat
okay,
because I visualize, like when I write, I try to visualize everything beforehand and then I kind of write it out, and I'm thinking about, oh, this character, how would they react to this character saying this thing, and like their initial reaction, how would they move? How do I describe that movement and have it flow into the dialogue choice that they make? And
right,
it's like that's the that's the fun part about the writing. For me, I don't like the descriptions because I don't know how to. Sometimes describing certain things is difficult for me because I don't have a wide enough vocabulary, and that's because I'm not necessarily more. I don't necessarily read enough. I'm trying to get really into reading again, and well, not even again, like starting like to read a lot more. But I've mainly just watched movies and TV shows for like
hmm
practically my entire life, and it's how I got like my stories and like as a visual focus rather than like trying to plot everything out in a way.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm kind of um the same way, and it's been interesting the last couple of years because I've been trying to focus on dialogue more,
Hmm.
and and mainly because I realized that, well, okay, action scenes are cool, but if we don't care about the character, then what's the point? Like what is there's no stakes involved if the
Hmm.
reader doesn't care what
Yeah.
happens to them. So yeah, um, making, I guess, like the initial um strength of the story now when I try to write is that, okay, how can I make this relatable? How can I bring this into the real world almost and have this character be relatable so that the reader cares about the action scenes?
Mm. Mm. Yeah. How? What are some ways that you try to make a character like relatable? Would you say like what? Do you have any like specific ways that you like? Okay, maybe bringing a love interest into the picture, or and having them die or something like that, or like what are ways that you would make a relatable incident for a character so that they can like go through this progression.
Right. Um, I think so. I think the first thing for me is like, okay, what does the character care about? If if we don't know what the character cares about, then I don't think we can care about them accomplishing whatever goal it is. Um, and so I think from that perspective, like in Crocodilian, I start the story off with Ian wanting to become famous, and he's, you know, he's always kind of overlooked in everything he does, and so that's his immediate drive is I will do basically anything to be famous, and then as the story progresses, he realizes that you know, everybody starts to kind of focus in on him specifically, and he doesn't deal with it very well. And so the drive for fame kind of becomes now he's running from it almost, and it's like, but he's run from everything his whole life, so now it's kind of like a double-edged sword where now he has to, you know, stop running and be the hero, but in doing so, fame is going to follow. And I don't know, just things like that. It's like, what is their immediate desire, or
their goals?
What does the character care about? Yeah, their goal. And if we can get the reader to care about that same goal, or
relate to it in some way,
right?
Yeah. I try to. It's hard for me because my whole story thing is an anthology, so I have to jump around to different characters, and right now I've gotten to a point where I'm starting to actually take each character that I've somewhat established and put them all together in the same rooms, and that's been very interesting. I actually very much enjoy it because it's like because I do the episodic every week. A new episode comes out about a specific kind of storyline, and then you no longer hear about that storyline until later on, which is later on technically, and I'm coming up to the conclusion, and that is fun. Like how, so that's another question for when it comes to like an ongoing story going. I'm not sure if you've done any sequels. Is Crocodilian your only novel that you've had so far, or?
So, yeah, it's kind of interesting because I wrote my first novel on Wattpad serially, and it was pretty bad. But at the same time, I kind of like, you know, it's my baby project. But I also like the shared universe aspect, and so I didn't even intend to write Crocodilian as a novel. I think it was supposed to be a short story, and it's set in the shared universe with other short stories, and they all kind of they're in different time periods, but they're all in the same continent. And I think that's kind of fun because I can world build based on like that time period and that area of the continent.
Yeah.
And so it kind of makes it, in my mind, I can kind of separate the stories that way and build upon each one and sneak in little Easter eggs.
Yeah. So when it comes to like continuity, you don't have a problem with like continuity errors or like having to retcon certain aspects of your established lore because you wrote something off.
Right. Not yet. I feel like it's going to happen eventually, but
when you have a lot, it gets to that point. I am going through that right now, and it's fun. It's like, so right now I've actually started to read the Bible because the Bible has this, when it comes to the Bible, it's so deep and rich with different stories throughout different time periods, but they all interlock with one another, and it's so I I don't know how to describe it, but it's the same way when I'm not sure if you're a fan of like of Star Wars. Are you a fan of Star Wars?
Yeah,
Do you,
yeah, I've watched all the movies.
have you seen the Clone Wars
I have not,
animated series? So in the
but
Clone
I
Wars,
know. Yeah.
in the Clone Wars, that's the best Star Wars content out there.
Okay.
So it's my opinion, but it's also a fact. Okay, but the Clone Wars animated series is kind of like an anthology, right? And it goes like based off of different storylines. It does follow Anakin and Obi-Wan during the Clone Wars years and all that stuff. But also it jumps around to different Jedis and different storylines, as well as the clones. And it does so well with making different, like having different plot lines for certain things, but then having an overarching plot going through. And the overarching plot isn't like necessarily like there mainly. The overarching plot is just focusing on the characters themselves and how they grow. Specifically with Anakin, you can actually appreciate and see the turning of him from light to dark. And that's such a great, it's so well told, and it allows for so much. I would say like it just allows for them to really build the overall galaxy that surrounds the Star Wars universe. And because of how the Clone Wars was, they have like the creators at Lucasfilm are like have been establishing more content, more so based off of Clone Wars than they did with the sequel, the disgusting sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
but like Mandalorian kind of established lore from the actual Clone Wars series, because the Clone Wars series actually went into a Mandalorian arc at a certain point.
Oh, nice.
And you got to actually witness some of the precursors to what the Mandalorian got to face and all that stuff too. And yeah, there's a lot of Easter eggs between the two. You know how like you got the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're just putting Easter eggs all throughout it.
Right. Yeah, that sounds cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I definitely the first season is very slow, and they didn't understand who their audience was, because it's mainly meant for kids. So the first season isn't that great, but as soon as you get past the first season, I guarantee you're gonna start loving it. If you like Star Wars, you'll love it.
Nice.
It's so great. I'll probably send you a video like to give you a synopsis of what it is, and it's a short video. It's basically like,
okay,
yeah, you'll see.
Okay,
but anyways, back to your writing. So you have your own shared universe. Do you have a name for this universe that you've created?
Not really. So
or a name for the world specifically. I would say.
Yeah, the world is called Havoc with an E, so it's HAVEK. And I was gonna do it in like volumes, so I was gonna have volume 1 of like Tales of Havoc, and then it'd just be a bunch of short stories. But I don't know, it's gonna evolve, and it'll probably be something totally different, but I do plan on using that world. And I'm hoping to introduce, because right now it's set in like, it's definitely fantasy, like as fantasy as you can get, but I really want to kind of go I don't know if this is a good analogy, but like the Warhammer route, where they kind of have the 40K universe.
Yeah.
You know, and so I want to eventually
branch out.
Have like the sci-fi stories kind of come into it as well.
would you eventually like introduce the two into the same world, or would you keep the sci-fi completely separate?
That would be the ultimate goal. But I definitely want to, because that's it's definitely the end, kind of like,
or is it the beginning?
Yeah. Well, what I mean is I definitely want to establish them separately for a while. And then kind of do like a big tie-in event type thing.
Yeah, it's a lot to try to keep two like it's almost like they're two different universes themselves, and then bringing them together, sci-fi and fantasy. Though, like when I do it, I've already established that they're unified in some form or manner. There are still like people, like groups and organizations that are heavy believers in their own kind. Like there might be like a religious cult inside the Magenium realm, which is inside the core realms specifically. But like Magenium is like my fantasy universe, and there might be like a cult there that it's like, science is bad, it's evil, kind of thing. And then there'd be like sci-fi, like robots who are just like, we must purge all the mages and all that stuff. But like incorporating the two in unique ways, because we have to try to find our own unique ways to make them. What are some unique ways that you have, like, do you pull inspiration from certain stories that, like, I'm sure you pull inspiration. We all pull inspiration from other stories, but what specific franchises would you say are your go-to for inspiration in your own writings?
I would say my biggest inspiration is probably Brandon Sanderson's body of work. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
He just got the biggest Kickstarter, right? He's the one.
Yeah. I really love what he's doing with his stuff.
See, that's the thing, is that I just started getting into reading, so right now I'm reading the Bible, so that's like but
I just started the Bible this year as well. I'm doing that Bible in a Year podcast. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I have not, but that's something I should probably do. I've been thinking about getting like an audiobook version of the Bible, because I listen to podcasts all the time inside, like, at work, because I'm a delivery driver. And I basically get to just listen to my podcast all the time. And
that's awesome. Yeah.
This
would be perfect.
That would be pretty great. But also, the thing is that I actually do want to like really focus on reading, because I haven't done that very much. And I recently I've been reading every night with my girlfriend, and we try to read for 20 minutes every night before we go to bed. So that's like in our mind.
That's a cool habit.
Yeah, it's definitely my reading is getting better. It's just keeping it in my head is the thing. But I do want to start reading like actual fictional works as well. Specifically fictional works that are like made inside our creative community. I've been reading. I've been reading the poems that you've put out. I listened to the Ethereal Gardens last night, actually.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it's really good.
Yeah, that one. If you haven't listened to it, guys, listen to the Ethereal Gardens of the Vinebound Spine on the Storyletter Substack. Link in the description.
it may or may not be narrated by a certain host.
Yes, and if you want the narrated version, be sure to subscribe. Okay, subscribe as a member. It's a express membership, right?
Express. Yeah.
I'm subscribed. Well, why aren't you subscribed? But yeah, after our shills and tangent there. So what were we on? We were on something.
The reading specific books.
Yeah, and you said that Brandon Sanderson is your go-to inspiration. What about his stories inspires your works specifically?
Well, he's so, I think he's known for his world building and his magic systems. I think if you go on YouTube, you can find his lectures. He teaches he teaches in Utah, and he posts his lectures online.
Oh, wow.
Because his classes are so sought after that he just decided to make them public. And they're very insightful, and he teaches plot structure and magic systems and world building and all that stuff. And he also has that podcast called Writing Excuses, which is pretty good. It's 15 minutes long, each episode. But there's co-hosts and stuff, and they just pick a topic. And sorry, I'm kind of going off
no worries.
On a tangent, but this is what I've been doing for the past few years, is listening to any advice or any other successful authors. I've just been absorbing all of their information. But his works,
the things that you associate yourself with are is how you're going to be able to grow as a person. So if you associate yourself with people who aren't going to teach you anything or do anything, they're just going out drinking and partying, that's what you're going to be doing. So
right,
you focusing on the things that you want to do specifically, or learning from the people who actually teach you these things. Especially YouTube is all the new technology allows us to learn new things without having to actually even know the person that's teaching us how to do them.
Exactly.
But having them there is another story. If you got the chance to actually be associated with Brandon Sanderson and actually talk to him on a daily basis and actually be able to communicate with him, I'm sure that would be a completely different experience as well.
Right.
But anyways, yeah. Go on. Sorry.
No, I agree. Yeah. And I think an important point to make is that I did notice I was taking in so much information, but I wasn't applying it. And that was a big issue for me, because I wasn't producing what I was taking in, and therefore it was kind of just leaving, it was kind of just seeping out. It wasn't really, I wasn't able to retain it. But once I started writing more regularly, and I started journaling even, which is I'll just have a journal.
That's a good habit to get into. Yeah,
and just any time I want to dive back into creative mode, I'll just write down, what I'm feeling, or what words, are coming to mind and things like that. And that has really kept me motivated, or in the writing mindset.
Do you ever get a writer's block?
I do, actually. It's kind of on a weekly basis. But I think what it comes down to is that I have to visualize what I'm going to write before I write it.
Yeah.
And so I have to step away for a few days and kind of think about it. But it's not crippling, if I know I need to write, I'll sit down and just start writing, even if it's
bad,
garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll push through, but there will be like maybe 3 or 4 days where I don't produce anything. But I try to. What I've been trying to do lately is um, write in the morning and then edit in the evening when I don't feel like writing,
Mm,
and that's helped out a lot.
that's good. That's good. So when it comes to your actual schedule for writing, I know you put out like a schedule for for the story letter itself, but do you have a set schedule, like other than like, do you write every day, or do you like take weekends off to really kind of like wind down and or think about certain things? Do you have like brainstorming sessions like on a specific day? What's your schedule like? How do you work?
Um, so I'm trying to stay on a schedule. It's kind of tough.
Yeah,
I
tell me
think,
about it.
yeah, I think right now I'm on like a monthly schedule. So I have the 18th of every month. I'll do the newsletter, which is big. At first I didn't know what I was doing with the newsletter. Like it was kind of random, but I think now I've got a better vision for it, and I look forward to it more because
Mhm.
I'll like pick a topic and think about it for a week, and then uh prepare it a week in advance. But so I look forward to the monthly posts. Now the weekly posts kind of get um I'm finding it hard to keep the weekly momentum.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very like being consistent on that level
Yeah.
takes a lot of dedication, especially if you're also thinking about other things that you're trying to make at the same time.
Hmm.
That's that's like multiple jobs in itself, and that's the curse of being the leader of the thing. Because like right now, I'm kind of in the same situation. I'm making a game and trying to post all the stuff onto social media while also writing out a podcast on a weekly basis at the same time, and then having
Right.
multiple different like game sessions going on throughout the week, and it's all just continuously happening every week. It's fun. It's fun, but stressful.
Yeah, I listened to your game sessions and they're very intriguing.
I'm sorry if there's a lot of cursing. Me,
Oh,
me and my me and my buddies say we have some fun. Sometimes it
sounds
gets,
fun.
yeah. But anyways, your work schedule, every week it's difficult. Why do you think it's you specifically post do you do like weekly posts as in like story stuff, or is it more like trying to get the audience engaged and like, or the community engaged with the story letters itself? Because I know you do
Um,
both technically.
yeah. So yeah, it's kind of wonky right now. It's evolving a little bit. I I really like the discussion threads. I do
Yeah,
those on every other Monday, and that's been fun.
yeah.
And I
There's a
try to respond.
you. I mean, I think you respond to everyone's message. I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
everyone's message, and they're long
I like
messages.
it.
I'll read through them. I'll be like, dang, and yeah, and it's actually fun because you're building a community with that. That's good. That's very good.
Yeah, I really like that, and I like hearing everybody's thoughts and figuring out what people like and their opinions and stuff. So, but other than that, I do, and I think I'm going to start doing writing prompts on the other Mondays.
Hmm.
Like little flash fiction prompts, and then maybe people can write their little stories in the comments, and then people can vote on them.
Ooh,
But
that'd
it
be
wouldn't be
interesting.
yeah, and it wouldn't be anything too crazy. It would just be like just a short, like couple hundred words or something. Um, so I'm thinking about doing that. I don't know when I'll start, maybe next month, but um, yeah, it was. I have it set so that it's Wednesday is serial fiction day, um, and then Saturday is short fiction day.
Hmm.
So short stories, flash fiction. I think Sunday's poetry, but it's really I personally can't maintain that. So it's set for when other people submit.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so like when more people are submitting, then I can fill those slots with other people's work, and then it'll be more consistent.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
And soon you'll have my work that I am working on currently
Yeah, that'll be awesome. I can't
submitted.
wait.
Yeah, it's right now I'm working on the so I'm on the technically the third chapter if we're going by chapters. It's the third episode in the saga that I'm going to have it be like the podcast. So the plan is the podcast is gonna start off with this storyline, the same storyline that is gonna be for this story that I'm writing, and then
Okay.
the podcast is going to divert off to like a Reborn in Power series, while the storyline is going to continue on. So the written version is going to have focus on a different side thing,
I see.
while the actual podcast is going to start like kind of diverting off to separate storyline. So you'll still get something unique if you read the story, aside from the actual podcast itself. So
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
excited.
that sounds like a cool idea.
I'm excited for that. I just don't know how I'm gonna do it all. We'll see. But uh, but I'm incorporating as much as I can into this storyline and trying to also make it like an introduction into the universe for those who haven't like read or listened to my universe or
Right.
any of that. But hopefully it's entertaining enough to warrant some readers.
Yeah. No, I think it'll be good. That's a good idea.
But
Because um I'm still like I'm listening to the podcast, but I'm still learning the world and how the game works.
yeah,
And
yeah. Yeah, once you get to season 3, like that's when like it goes up. I mainly had season 1 and season 2 be the actual the nitty gritty like building the world, letting people like learn about the different aspects of things that they might need to know, like the regions of the core or like the core pantheon with all the gods and stuff.
okay.
But that's all in season 1 and season 2, and then season 3 is like the legit stories that everyone can listen to and have fun with. And I do 10 episodes, or like 9 to 10 episodes. Each would be are the sagas, different sagas. So I have like the Yen saga, which was the first one, and each saga has 3 Reborn in Power sessions. Right now, I have the mainframe on, and I'm not sure if you've been listening to that one.
I haven't listened to that one yet.
That one's my like super sci-fi. Enter the virtual reality and
Oh, cool.
yeah, so that one's fun. But yeah, those are entertaining. But anyways, enough about me. Back onto you. So the story letter. How many right now you have a few writers like working on them. How many writers do you have right now, specifically making content?
Right now there are, I would say, four. There's four people submitting
Okay.
or going to submit, including you.
Mm-hmm.
But there are in the discussion threads. I've met some other writers through that forum, and I think I'm going to reach out to them and see if they want to submit either like their first chapters or any short stories they may have.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's some pretty talented people on Substack right now,
Yeah,
and just online in general. But like, I don't know, it's crazy to see such talented people and then them not have an audience yet. And so I want to...
You want to help them kind of build that audience.
Right. I mean, not that it would be, I don't know. I'm not at that point where I can really like throw that weight around, but that's the ultimate goal, is to kind of highlight like works that I like, or just really talented authors that maybe are undervalued or just haven't had the spotlight yet. So
Yeah.
and it's kind of, at first I had made the Express membership mandatory for submitting, and I think that was kind of it was an invisible barrier that I had set up. So I think moving forward, having the open submission form available is going to be much better.
And then having specific types of stories under the barrier itself.
Yeah, either doing the serial fiction under behind the paywall after like maybe 2 or 3 chapters or something, and then but most of the content should remain free. And then what the membership is more like the community, because all of the money that is going into the Substack is going to go back into the community somehow, whether it be like artwork or just the overhead costs for
artwork,
doing the marketing and stuff. Yeah,
marketing. Yeah,
and I'm also providing editorial services.
It's technically,
and that depends.
You're getting what you paid for. Like you're getting like editing. So you're getting you're doing editing services. Is that like a? Are you the one editing it, or are you having other people edit it?
Well, yeah. So I'm the one providing the services. However, the dream would be to hire, like, if enough money came in to be able to hire out editorial staff, that would be pretty awesome.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, but no, right now I do just like very surface level edits, or like if you want like critiques or feedbacks, I provide that as well. So it, like, whatever you submit doesn't have to be what is published. Like, I'm working with somebody right now, and he submitted a 20,000 word novella, but there's parts that I think can be expanded upon. And so I talked with him, and I think we can make it something. It's already good, but I think we can make it something that he will like, and that the readers, it'll just be it'll be what is true to his vision. You know?
Yeah. And that's good, because it's like, you don't want to end up change. That's just something that I've thought about, is if writers came to me and said that they wanted to write inside the core realms, I would very much love that. But obviously, the core realms is technically my baby, and having someone write inside it, I've tried to make it like people able to write, like create their own worlds and do their own stuff on those worlds. It just depends on the type of the realm that they're in, how different elements work within it, and the different creatures that you might find within the actual universe itself. But like when it comes to just having like a full on publishing company, you're able to have someone come in and write their own content, and then you can like help guide them along to find ways to make it better, so that it is at its best when it's published.
Right. And yeah, that's what I want to help provide, or like it's already yeah, I think you said it. It's like I don't want to edit out their voice. Like I want them, like I'll do like grammar fixes and things like that. But I think that's one of the big things that I've learned, is that, the writer wrote it a specific way because that is how they wanted to tell it. So I don't want to be like, hey, this sentence needs to be written this way.
Yeah.
And change how their voice is coming out. So yeah, that's
the hardest part. That's the hardest part, because there's sometimes, like I know for myself, when I'm writing something, and I'll write a sentence, I know it's grammatically incorrect, but it's the way I wrote it. I wrote it for a specific reason that way, because I wanted to flow in a certain way, I guess. But like my girlfriend will go and read it and be like, you need to rewrite this because it doesn't make sense. I'm like, but the point of it is that the scene is saying this person looks over, says this line, and then the scene continues on right after that line. Then he continues his dialogue. So it's almost like it's seamless. He's walking and he's talking at the same time, looking around the room, but I'm writing in between the dialogue and the descriptions, all in one paragraph itself. And it's
right,
convoluted, I guess, but sometimes it flows in a certain way that I want it to be seen, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, when it comes to like a person's voice, you want to make sure that it stays that way, so that they don't get turned off and are like, this is not exactly how I wanted it to be. And I know that that's happened a lot with like traditional publishing companies, where like they'll read something, it's like, you have to change all of this if you want it to work, and then the original story isn't even there anymore, because
yeah. I mean, it's a learning process for me too. It's like, because I've never worked in a professional capacity as an editor, so it's kind of, it's fun that I can make those suggestions, and that's all they really are at the end of the day, is suggestions, because I'm upfront about it, and if they don't want to change it, then they don't have to change it.
Yeah.
But it's fun to, because it's a collaboration at that point, where it's like, hey, this would be cool if this was like this, and then just spruce it up a bit. It's not like I'm cutting it up, but yeah, it's fun.
That's
I
good.
try to keep it light. Yeah,
that's good. So I believe I think that's that's a good place we can actually stop. Do you have any places that you want to show your I know Storyletter Substack, storyletter.substack.com. Any other social media accounts you want to shout out?
I mean, I'm almost on all social media at the Storyletter. It should be the same username for every account, so I should be easy to find. Storyletter.press is my WordPress website. It's a little outdated, so I use the Substack mainly as the home base.
And I know you said something about possibly making a what's it called? Are you going to actually be publishing books as well, like physical copies as well, or?
Yes. So I haven't got to that point yet. I think hopefully, so what I would like to do is an annual anthology of the, I guess, exclusive stories that are on Substack. So during the submission process, if you select that you want to make it exclusive, then you are opting into the anthology process. And then that way I know which stories, can then be, which writers can be approached once that process starts, and I can ask them if they want to go that route. But yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool, like having an annual collection of the stories that are on the website.
Yeah. You heard it here, everyone. If you're a writer and you're listening to this, go to the Storyletter and submit your works so that there can be a huge catalog found there, and Winston won't have to write all like every week.
Yes, please, thank you.
But thank you, Winston, for coming on the podcast. I'm going to have this out sooner rather than later, and I hope that it gets more writers and readers over to read your content and write more content for you. And hopefully people will also come on and read my story that will be coming out probably by the end of summer.
Yes, awesome. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for listening, and have a great evening. I thank you for listening to our conversation. If you'd like to hear more guest entries like this one, go over and become a free member at arthadiananthologies.com to not miss another episode like this. And if you're interested in becoming a guest yourself, you can fill out an entry form at the site's homepage. Until next time, travelers, be safe, stay safe, and if death comes to you, may you be reborn in power.